This video may contain offensive language and be frightening to some viewers. Viewer discretion is recommended. Nina the Killer is a fan-made character for the Creepypasta created by Allegoric12 on DeviantArt. They have since deleted their account and are no longer in the Creepypasta fandom. They do not wish to discuss Nina. She is infamously known in the fandom for being a set example of a Mary Sue, largely due to her characteristics being heavily based off Jeff the Killer. There have been many fan recreations of Nina the Killer, but none have made an impact on her reputation. Since the deletion of Allegoric12's previous account, there is not much original artwork or information known about Nina the Killer. This is my take on Nina's twisted story. It is not the official origin, but I welcome you to do your own research and find out for yourself. I never could have imagined Jeff's madness could be so overwhelming. He's not only consumed by it, it affects those around him. Someone with an extremely fragile mind could be pushed to insanity. I recently learnt of a new killer. I was shocked to hear it, but my first thought it was just a crazy fan of Jeff the Killer because of their appearance. But after looking deeper into it, I discovered they are worse than a monster. Further investigation is needed to uncover the full story. Here is a short summary of what I know so far. You'll have to read between the lines and decipher the truth for yourself, but this is what I know, and this is how it began. Nina Hopkins, age 11, and her younger brother Chris, age 6, had recently transferred to a new school. It soon became clear that this young and impressionable girl, Nina Hopkins, had become a massive fan of the psychopath, Jeff the Killer. Having read his origin story many times, she felt strangely attracted to him, admired him, and felt a strange impulse to kill while reading the story. If only someone could have seen the warning signs, maybe this could have been stopped. On the first day of school, Nina and her brother Chris had found a quiet place in the schoolyard to eat when they were greeted by 3 students who we later identified as Claudia, Malcolm, and Yoni. Claudia was a notorious bully and claimed that the area was their territory. Chris spoke up, saying how ridiculous that was. They were, after all, just trying to have a quiet lunch together. But Claudia didn't see it that way. She saw it as a test of her authority and acted violently, lashing out at Chris, punching him. At the sight of her little brother being hit, Nina snapped. She pulled out a knife she had concealed. "Touch him again and I'll kill all of you," she threatened. Though her brother saw it as an impulse to defend her, she felt something stronger. Something like the urge to kill. Afterwards, she found an anonymous note in her locker that read, "I know what you did. But do not worry, I won't tell anyone. You're skillful, but dangerous." Time passed, and no police were involved. It was at this stage when Nina would feel her sanity begin to slip away. One night, while her brother was playing out in the yard, Claudia and her gang showed up for revenge. They knew how much Nina loved her little brother, so to get back at her, they took it out on him. They snatched him away from his home and beat him senseless. Then they dumped him out of their car and just drove away. When Nina found her beaten and bloodied brother, she rushed him home He was then sent to the hospital. Nina would soon find another anonymous note. "I'm sorry about your brother. I hope for him to recover. Do not think you're alone. I'm here. I'll be your friend, but unfortunately, distant." After Chris recovered from his injuries, he was released from the hospital. He would soon return back to school with his sister Nina. Just when it seemed like things were returning to normal, they were jumped by Claudia and the gang. They weren't content with just beating Chris. Now it was Nina's turn.
You shouldn't have threatened us.
Claudia and her cronies set upon Nina, punching and kicking her. She fought back, but she was overwhelmed by the trio.
Not so tough now.
Chris was screaming for help, but no one was listening. In his desperation, he began chucking anything he could at the bullies to try and distract them. He managed to catch Claudia in the head with a rock, and this gave Nina the chance she needed to escape. She broke free from the group and began to run. Claudia was momentarily stunned. She turned to Chris. "We'll get you later, you little shit, but first we're gonna get your sister." Claudia spat in contempt and turned to follow Nina, running into the distance. Nina didn't have much chance to outrun the others. They were older than her, and she was tiring. If she didn't do something quick, they would soon catch her. Ahead, she found an abandoned house, which she stumbled into, seeking refuge. Claudia was close behind, with the other two cronies trailing further back. Nina had to find something quick to defend herself with. She found a metal bar lying on the ground. It must have been left behind during the construction of the house. Nina ran to the front entrance and waited quietly around the corner. She heard Claudia's footsteps as she entered the house. "I'm here now, bitch. You can't hide forever. You may as well come out now, and I might take it easy on you." "Just kidding. I'm gonna make you wish you were dead." 3 steps away. 2 steps away. 1 step away. Claudia was approaching the corner that Nina was hiding behind. "Get out here now," was all she had time to say. Her sentence was cut short by the metal bar that Nina swung viciously into her face. Claudia crumpled to the ground, writhing in agony. Nina set upon her, beating her face in with the metal bar. With each strike, she became more insane. She began laughing as blood splattered everywhere. Claudia's face now just a crumpled mess of red. It was at this moment Claudia's 2 cronies, Malcolm and Yoni, burst through the front door. They stopped dead in their tracks, horrified by the sight before them. Nina just looked up at them and smiled. "Who's next?" she asked excitedly. That night, after Nina returned home, she decided it was time for a makeover to match her newfound identity. She was sick of looking normal like everybody else, because she wasn't normal anymore. She couldn't be further from it. The only person she could relate to was Jeff. She decided she would follow in his footsteps and began searching for the bleach. As she was searching through the cupboards in the kitchen, a figure appeared. Her eyes widened in disbelief. It couldn't be, but it was. Jeff was standing in front of her, smiling with that impossibly wide smile of his. He was holding a bottle of bleach and alcohol as he walked slowly towards her. He poured it over her head and she didn't complain. "This might hurt a little, but you're strong," he whispered in her ear before striking a match and setting her on fire. Nina felt a warm happiness flood through her as she screamed in agony until she blacked out. Nina awoke in a hospital. She raised her hands to her face and felt the bandages covering her. She stumbled out of the bed to the closest mirror and began unwrapping the bandages. She was thrilled with the sight she saw. Her skin was white and leathery. Her hair that once reached to her knees was now charred black and only reached midway down her back. She couldn't be more pleased with her makeover, but there was still something missing. She would fix that later. She began laughing insanely as the nurses rushed in. It was late. Nina's mother was trying to get some sleep when she was woken by the sound of laughter coming down the hallway. She crept out of bed and stumbled towards the sound. Maybe it was Nina. She'd been acting strangely ever since the accident. The doctors said there could be some serious trauma involved. She was worried about Nina, so she thought she'd check on her just to make sure she was okay. Sure enough, there was a faint light coming out underneath Nina's bedroom door. She softly knocked 3 times. There was no answer, but the laughing stopped, so she gently creaked open the door and stepped inside. It took a few seconds for her eyes to adjust to the dim light in the room. Her breath caught in horror as she saw the scene in front of her. Nina was sitting on her bed with a sewing kit next to her. She was stitching her eyelids open with a needle and a piece of thread. Her mouth had been cut into a gruesome smile, with the bloodied knife lying next to her. "Nina, what happened to you?" Nina finishes stitching her last eyelid open before replying. "What do you mean, what happened to me? I'm finishing my makeover. Don't I look beautiful? Do you think I look beautiful, Mummy?" "Nina, why did you do this to your face?" "You don't think I look beautiful, do you, Mummy?" Nina picked up the knife and stood up slowly. Her mother began to back out of the room, afraid to turn away. "You should have just said I looked beautiful," Nina said as she rushed her mother with the knife, plunging it deep into her heart. Her mum cried out one last breath before slumping to the floor in a pool of blood. Nina giggled insanely as she stepped over her mother's body and walked towards Chris's room. She gently opened his door and walked into his room. The faint glow of his nightlight next to his bed illuminated his sleeping figure. She sat down on the bed next to him and lovingly stroked the hair from his forehead. "Wake up, Chris. Wake up." His eyes flickered open as he awoke from his slumber. "Nina?" "Yes, it's me. Do you want to start a new life with me, Chris?" "Yes." He nodded sleepily. "Good." She plunged the knife into his chest. "Go to sleep, my prince," was the last thing she said to him as she dragged his body outside. He heard a door creak in front of him. "Mum?" he called out in a shaky voice. Suddenly a door slammed behind him and he jumped and turned around. He heard a long, eerie groan from behind him that seemed to croak right in his ear. He turned around as fast as he could, and suddenly he was face to face with none other than his dead sister.